بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه الغر الميامين. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي علي بن أبي طالب. اللهم صل على الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. أما بعد، يقول الله في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولا يأتونك بمثل إلا جئناك بالحق وأحسن تفسيرا. The first of our salawat in honor of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The second in honor of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. The third with your loudest voices in honor of the Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Asr wa al-Zaman. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Respected scholars, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. The science of Tafsir is without a doubt one of the most fascinating sciences amongst the Quranic sciences, and is a science that requires a thorough analysis. For without a doubt, understanding the meaning and the history and the development of Tafsir of the Quran is vital in our understanding of the Quran as a whole. Many times when people read the Quran, the first question they ask about any of the verses of the Quran is, what is the tafsir of that verse? The idea is that they seek to have a better understanding of that particular verse. They seek to have a better idea of why that verse was revealed and the meaning behind that verse. Therefore, you find that arguably one of the most important acts in maintaining our relationship with the Quran and not abandoning the Quran is to get to grips with the understanding of the tafsir of the Quran. That's why when you hear the names of many of the great ulama of Ahlus Sunnah and of the Shia, you'll find that many of them achieved their greatness through their dedication to the Quran. When you hear the names of the likes of Zamakhshari, or the likes of Tabari, or the likes of Fakhr al-Razi, or the likes of Tusi or Tabrasi, or the likes of Tabatabai or Shirazi, when you hear these names, many of these achieved their greatness through their dedication to the Holy Quran. They wanted to give as much as they could in order for us to be able to understand what exactly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intended when He was speaking to us through the Quran. Therefore, the area of tafsir, without a doubt, is an area which was of the utmost importance even from the time of our Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. As in, even from the time of our Holy Prophet, you find that there was an emphasis on making sure that the likes of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the likes of Ibn Abbas, they were firmly instilled into loving, understanding the meaning of the Quran. Indeed, there were centers of tafsir which were established all over the Islamic State, even within 30, 40 years of the death of Rasulullah. If you went to Basra, you see Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. If you went to Kufa, you see Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. If you went to Damascus, you'd see the likes of Abu Darda, or you'd see the likes of Ubay bin Ka'ab. Therefore, you found that these schools of tafsir would have companions whose role it would be to explain the meaning of a verse of the Quran. As in, there's no point looking at the Quran without pondering on the meaning of the ayah. these companions' role would be to try and explain the meaning. Even further than that, the tabi'een and the tabi'een, the generations after the companions, you found that they focused on tafsir a great amount. The likes of Sa'id ibn Jubair, the likes of Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib, the likes of Mujahid bin Jabr, many of these would focus on the tafsir of the Holy Quran. However, if you were to ask many of the followers of Ahlul Bayt, what do you know about the development of the tafsir of the Holy Quran? About the history of the tafsir of the Quran? About who could do tafsir of the Quran? About what are the prerequisites for the tafsir of the Quran? You find that many of the followers of Ahlul Bayt are uncertain. Indeed, would you believe that there are certain followers of Ahlul Bayt who go through a whole lifetime without once having read a book of the tafsir of the Quran? There are some followers of Ahlul Bayt in the world today. If you ask him, have you read Al-Mizan of Tabatabai? Have you read Majma' al-Bayan of Tabrasi? Have you read Al-Tibyan of Shaykh al-Tusi? Have you read Al-Amthal of Shaykh Nasir Makarim Shirazi and the other scholars who worked with him? Many of them will turn around and say, to tell you the truth, we don't even know of many of these names. Then how do we expect on the day of judgment the Quran to speak for us when we've neglected the Quran? On the day of judgment, if I haven't read a single book of tafsir of the Quran, how can I be ready to go for the grave tonight when I did not bother to open up the books of tafsir? Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Books like, for example, Al-Amthal of Shaykh Nasir Makarim, for example, or Al-Mizan of Allama Tabatabai. You have portions of them in English now. Even if a person is not able to read the Arabic, then at least make an effort to go to the world of tafsir in English. Because this should be a resolution when it comes to the Quran. Therefore tonight, let's in this final analysis examine the science of tafsir of the Quran and understand its development in order that we can go and swim in the world of tafsir from later tonight and for the rest of our life, inshallah. And I'd like to examine the following stages. Number one, what's the meaning of the word tafsir? And what are the two definitions that are normally given? Number two, what's the difference between tafsir and ta'wil? And why is it sometimes that they are used synonymously and sometimes they are used anonymously? Number three, who is it that's able to do ta'wil according to the Quran? And what's the difference of tafsir bin ra'i versus tafsir bin ma'thur? Number four, what's the prerequisites of tafsir of the Holy Quran? And how important is the idea of syntax, morphology, and areas such as rhetoric and etymology when it comes to understanding the Quran? Number five, what are the most famous works of tafsir? And how did certain tafsir have a lining towards the mystical, the theological, or even the legal? Number six, do we take every tafsir of the school of Ahlul Bayt as being 100% accurate? Or is there a possibility that there are certain tafsir where you still have a question on certain traditions? And number seven, what did the Holy Prophet say? That on the day of judgment, three of them will complain about the way they were treated. And how does that affect us in our life today? Let's examine this and seek to dissect the topic in complete depth. When you come to the word tafsir, obviously from the beginning someone asks, what's the meaning of the word tafsir? The first opinion, according to Ibn Mandur, is that tafsir means to explain something clearly. In which way? He looks at the root of the word tafsir. And what does he say? He says if you want to understand the root of the word tafsir, then you can understand it in which way? In looking at the idea of symptomatology. What does he mean by this? Imagine you're a physician. You want to see if there's a disease in the urine, yes? So you want to make sure that this person, do they have a disease? So you're going to look at the urine and you're going to inspect whether there's a disease or not. Fasara means what? The act of looking at that urine, yes? So the act of looking at that urine to diagnose whether there's a disease or no is fasara. The mufassir is the physician who's undertaking the act. The tafsirah is the urine itself, the sample. The aim of all three is what? Is to get the meaning behind whether there is a disease in that person's life. Correct or no? Therefore, Ibn Mandur said the origin of the word tafsir comes from the word safara, meaning what? He says it comes from the word safara and the idea that you're looking for the deeper meaning in something. He gives the example of the physician. He said the physician, when he takes some urine and he looks within the urine, what's he trying to do? He's trying to see the meaning of whether there is a disease to be diagnosed there or no. Therefore, you found the idea was that tafsir means I'm looking for a meaning. Something which is unknown, I'm trying to unravel it and look for it. As then you find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran saying what? He says clearly that when you come to Surah 25, yes? Verse number 33. وَلَا يَأْتُونَكَ بِمَثَلٍ إِلَّا جِئْنَاكَ بِالْحَقِّ وَأَحْسَنَ تَفْسِيرًا. Whenever they bring you an example, we bring the truth and make clear the explanation and meaning. When Surah 25 verse 33 uses the word tafsir, it uses it in the idea that the meaning is made clear. وَلَا يَأْتُونَكَ what? بِمَثَلٍ إِلَّا جِئْنَاكَ بِالْحَقِّ وَأَحْسَنَ تَفْسِيرًا. In other words, if someone says that tafsir means I'm looking for the meaning, in which way? For example, if I look at an ayah in the Quran, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ, O you who believe, establish salah. That when I'm looking for the meaning of salah, the tafsir will tell me salah is an act which involves what? Which involves standing, prostrating, bowing, doing dua. The tafsir therefore has done what? The tafsir has diagnosed the symptoms, has looked deep in and found a meaning. If I look at an ayah like zakat, it says, أَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ. I want to look for the tafsir of zakah. What am I doing? I'm diagnosing zakah. I want to know what's the meaning of zakah. So when I look at the diagnosis of zakah, I'm seeing the symptoms. I find that the answer is 2.5% has to be paid on a certain number of goods. Therefore, the first meaning of tafsir, according to Ibn Mandur, was what? Ibn Mandur said, tafsir from the word fasara, that a person is looking for what? A person is looking for the meaning. Jurjani differed with Ibn Mandur. Jurjani said tafsir doesn't mean looking at the meaning. Jurjani said that tafsir means what? He said tafsir means to disclose or unveil something. Please focus on this idea. He says rather than Ibn Mandur's root meaning of tafsir being what? Fasara. He said that the root meaning of tafsir is safar. And that safar means the idea of unveiling something. What do we mean? You see, for example, now in Arabic, when you say someone is gone on safar, what does that mean? Someone's gone on a journey, yes? Someone has traveled. He says that here, what does the word tafsir come from safar? When you travel, you unveil your real morals. Correct or no? Didn't Imam Amir al-Mu'minin used to say, if you want to know someone, travel with them, correct? Then you'll know the type of person they are. Why? You find Jurjani saying, if you travel with someone, yes, what happens? Safar means that you travel to unveil their morals and your morals. He said, therefore, the word tafsir comes from the idea of unveiling or disclosing. Let me give you another example. In the Arabic language, if someone doesn't wear hijab, what do they call her? Safira, correct? Either you would call her Sufur or you call her Safira. Safira means what? Safira means a lady who's unveiled or disclosed her hair, correct or no? As in a lady in Islam is not meant to disclose her hair to those who are not mahram to her. If she discloses her hair, unveils her hair to those who are not mahram to her, then what do they call her in Arabic? They call her Safira. Jurjani said that if you look at the word safar or the word safira, both of them indicate an unveiling of something. Therefore, he said when you come to the word tafsir, what does tafsir mean? He said tafsir means the idea of unveiling. That there's an ayah in the Quran which otherwise looks plain. When you do tafsir, you unveil the meaning of the ayah. All of a sudden, you disclose all the information of the ayah. Therefore, he said when Allah talked of tafsir, he didn't mean you look for the meaning. He said the meaning is disclosed towards you. These were the two opinions. Let me give you an example. What does he mean? When I read the ayah in the Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. Allahumma salli. Allahumma salli. He said that if you look, for example, at the idea that you're unveiling, he said that ayah, if you look at it, you wouldn't know the meaning simply by looking at it. When you unveil its meaning, you find out that it's revealed about the Holy Prophet, about Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, about Fatima al-Zahra, about Imam al-Hassan, about Imam al-Hussein. What have you done? He said you haven't done tafsir in the meaning of look for the meaning. He said you've done tafsir in the idea of unveiling something which otherwise was disclosed. Therefore, the scholars, their central understanding of tafsir was what? The idea that I'm looking for meaning by unraveling, by disclosing what is otherwise unveiled. And that's why the question arises on this front. Rasulullah himself, did he do tafsir or no? This is a very hotly contested issue. Why? Because you find that not all the schools in Islam believe that Rasulullah necessarily done tafsir of the whole Quran. Imagine the Holy Prophet has come to Arabia. He's come with a book, 6,500 verses. When he's come with this book, does he have time to give tafsir of every ayah of the Quran or no? Suyuti, what did he say? Suyuti said no. He said there's no way he'd have time to give every tafsir of every ayah of the Quran. Yes, there's a few ayahs he may say this is their tafsir, but no, otherwise he doesn't have the time. Jibreel gives him a whole surah. How's he going to have the time to be able to explain every single ayah of the Quran? And you know what Suyuti uses as backup? Suyuti says we only have 200 narrations. Please listen to this point carefully. Suyuti says we only have 200 narrations about tafsir of ayat of the Holy Quran. If Rasulullah had done tafsir of the whole Quran, then Rasulullah, we should have 6,500 narrations about each of the ayat of the Quran. Therefore, Suyuti believed that Rasulullah could not have done tafsir of the Holy Quran. The school of Ahlul Bayt differs completely with that opinion. The school of Ahlul Bayt says no, Rasulullah done tafsir of every ayah of the Quran, because his role was to give ta'aleem of the kitab. Correct or no? هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة. His role is to teach the book and the wisdom from the book. Suyuti says no way Rasulullah could have unraveled all the meanings of tafsir. He said why? He said because there's not enough narrations. We reply by saying firstly, Allah said that the role of Rasulullah is to explain every single ayah of the Quran to the people. As imagine now I come to all of you here and I say that I'm doing a course. Yes, I'm doing a course on Islamic history. And I'm going to cover every area of Islamic history. And you know what? My course will give you guidance until the day of judgment. But then week 3 I don't turn up. Week 9 I don't turn up. Week 14 I don't turn up. Week 15 I don't turn up. Can I have truly put a hujjah on all of you on the day of judgment that I taught you everything? No, I can't. Because you'll turn around to me and you'll say, Sayyid Ammar, hold on. You said that this history course of yours was a guide. You didn't turn up to night 9. You didn't turn up to night 14. You didn't turn up to night 16. For someone to say that Rasulullah did not unravel or disclose the meaning of every ayah of the Quran, that leaves us in a problem. Why? Because then it's open for everyone to come and give their opinions. In the school of Ahlul Bayt, we reply by saying, no, Rasulullah without a doubt, he explained every ayah of the Quran. What's our proofs? The first proof is Abdullah bin Mas'ud himself saying that whenever ayat would be revealed from Allah to the Prophet, Rasulullah would explain each ayah to us. Abdullah bin Mas'ud says that the ayat of the Quran, you know the ayat of the Quran, they don't all come down like in 700 verses. As in Rasulullah doesn't stay in the mountain with Jibreel for 6 hours taking ayat in. Normally if they come between 5 to 10 ayat at a go. It's very rare that you have like Surah Yusuf where you might have, wow, one whole surah revealed straight away. Normally it's 5 to 10 ayahs. Abdullah bin Mas'ud would say, we would never leave Rasulullah accept that Rasulullah would tell us the ayahs, we would memorize the verses, and then he'd explain to us verse after verse. Otherwise, if I give someone an ayah and they read the ayah in the wrong way, I'm going to have havoc in this religion. Everyone's going to have their own interpretation. Our first proof is that the Sahaba themselves would say, Rasulullah, he would give tafsir of every ayah. Secondly, when Suyuti says, please focus on this point, when Suyuti says we only have 200 ayat which have got tafsir from Rasulullah, that means Rasulullah could not have done the whole tafsir. We reply, yes, the moment you neglected the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, you were only left with 200 ayat of the Quran. Yes? As in the Imams of Ahlul Bayt were walking Qurans on earth. If you held on to the ayat which the Imams of Ahlul Bayt had heard from their father, from their father, from their father, from their father, from Rasulullah. Don't we say Imam al-Rada says, I heard from Imam al-Kadhim, from Imam al-Sadiq, from Imam al-Baqir, from Imam Zayn al-Abidin, from Imam al-Hussein, from Imam al-Hassan, from Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, from Rasulullah, from Jibra'il, from the heavens. We have what's known as a silsila al-Dhahabiyya, the golden chain of Imam al-Rada alayhi salam. Do you know that Imams of Ahlul Bayt have got over 4,000 narrations of ayat of the Quran and Rasulullah's tafsir? Sayyid Muhammad al-Bahrani, the grandson of the author of Tafsir al-Burhan, Sayyid Muhammad al-Bahrani is at the moment collecting every single ayah of the Quran and its tafsir from Rasulullah. Every ayah. But how does he get them? For example, Imam al-Sadiq says, I heard from Imam al-Baqir, who heard from Imam Zayn al-Abidin, who heard from Imam al-Hussein, who heard from Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen. You think when Rasulullah says, I am the city of knowledge and Ali is its gate. Or when Rasulullah says, or Imam Ali says, 1,000 doors open for me, which opened another 1,000 doors. What was he saying? He was saying every ayah of the Quran, Rasulullah explained to us. There was not an ayah which he neglected. For someone to come and say, as in even Ibn Taymiyyah agrees with us, and that's very rare for me to say on the minbar. Even Ibn Taymiyyah agrees with us and he says that Rasulullah explained every ayah of the Quran. Whereas Suyuti and others, in their own humble opinion, I'm sure, Suyuti and others are of the opinion that no, not every ayah. And the tafsir of Rasulullah with us until today. Let me give you an example. How many of you have read the verse, Surah 3, verse 97? وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ. Yes? مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ سَبِيلًا. It is incumbent, obligatory, that Allah has given you an order on everyone of mankind to perform Hajj, whoever has the provisions for Hajj. When the ayah says whoever has the provisions for Hajj, I need to go to Rasulullah, correct or no? When I go to Rasulullah, until today in our books of tafsir, we have a clear explanation from Rasulullah. Rasulullah saying the provisions of Hajj is what? Please focus on this. Is that you could afford to go to Hajj and your family will not be in debt if you go to Hajj. Yes? There are some people, they go to Hajj, he borrows from about 15 different people, yes? His family have no food at home, his family have no drink at home, and people look at him and they say to him, Hajji, how are you? Hajj, how are you? Baba, forget being a Hajji, leave Hajj. If you're going to leave your family in such a dire strait, why are you going to Hajj? You have someone here who owns half of the Shia world money, and people look at him and say, Hajj, how are you? Nice to see you. But the people like this shouldn't go to Hajj. They should stay far away from the Kaaba. But Rasulullah, when you look at him, what does Rasulullah say? The tafsir of this ayah from that time, we have Rasulullah explaining that to go to Hajj, you have to have the provisions where you will not end up in debt if you come back from Hajj. Allah doesn't want you coming to Him and you neglect your family's duties, you neglect your family's happiness. Therefore, tafsir of the Quran, without a doubt, Rasulullah had explained every ayah of the Quran. Because some people will come to you today and say, are you sure the Prophet explained every ayah? For all we know, he neglected some ayat. Every ayah he explained and Imam took it from him. Someone asks that when he explains every ayah, we sometimes hear that he did tafsir of the Quran. At other times we hear he did ta'wil. How many of you have heard this? Sometimes someone says to you, what's the ta'wil of this ayah? Sometimes someone says to you, what's the tafsir of this ayah? What's the difference between tafsir and ta'wil? As in, if Rasulullah done tafsir, where did the idea of ta'wil come from? You see, there's no contradiction. You could do ta'wil without denying tafsir. What do I mean? Tafsir gives you the apparent meaning of the ayah. Ta'wil gives you the possible deeper meanings which Allah intended for an ayah. Tafsir can tell me what? Tafsir can give me an apparent meaning, whereas ta'wil gives me a deeper meaning. There is nothing wrong in the school of Ahlul Bayt with ta'wil. Who can tell me in the Quran? Has there been instances of ta'wil in the Quran, the usage of the word ta'wil? Ta'wil means what? Ta'wil means that I can look for the deeper meaning of an ayah. You know, the Ahlul Bayt say there are 7 layers of meaning for one ayah of the Quran. What, you think there's only one layer of meaning? How many times have you looked at the Quran and you thought to yourself, you know what? I think this verse has got much more of a meaning than the translation gives it. I think this verse has a more profound meaning. Ta'wil is when a person looks for the more profound, the deeper explanation. In the Quran, we see ta'wil many times. You see, for example, Khidr with Musa. When Musa keeps telling Khidr, can I come with you on the journey? Can I come with you on the journey? And when Khidr takes Musa on the journey, what does he do? When Khidr takes Musa with him on the journey, he first does what? He makes a hole in the boat, correct? Then secondly, what does he do? He kills that young boy. And then thirdly, what does he do? Repair the wall, correct? Now when Musa asks him, he says to him, can you give me the meaning of all of this? The first time when he asked him, can you give me the meaning? The reply was, you don't have the patience to bear the meaning. The second time, you don't have the patience to bear the meaning. The third time, he said to him, سَأُنَبِّئُكَ بِتَأْوِيلٍ مَا لَمْ تَسْتَطِعْ عَلَيْهِ صَبْرًا. I'll give you the ta'wil. Why doesn't he say سَأُنَبِّئُكَ بِتَفْسِير? Why say سَأُنَبِّئُكَ بِتَأْوِيل? Because tafsir, Musa can see the apparent meaning. Musa can see a young boy has been killed. A wall has been repaired. A boat has had a hole made in it. But Khidr says, سَأُنَبِّئُكَ بِتَأْوِيلٍ. I will give you not the apparent meaning. I'm going to give you the deeper meaning, correct? Nabi Yusuf in the Quran, when he interprets the dreams, when he meets his father later on, he says, my father, this is the ta'wil of the dream that I saw when I was younger. Yes? Ta'wil means what? Ta'wil is the idea that I look for the deeper meaning of an ayah of the Holy Quran. I go beyond the layers and the levels. Ta'wil can be done, yes. Someone says, give me an example in the Quran of ta'wil. As in, give me an example of an ayah which will have more layers, more meaning. If you look at an ayah, for example, like فَلْيَنْظُرِ الْإِنسَانُ إِلَىٰ طَعَامِهِ, Surah 80 verse 24. Ahlul Bayt, what they done beautifully for us, and only they could do, is provide you tafsir and ta'wil. In which way? If I look at that ayah, Surah 80 verse 24, فَلْيَنْظُرِ الْإِنسَانُ إِلَىٰ طَعَامِهِ, let mankind have a look at his food. I ask all of you today, apparently, what does the ayah look like? Apparently. فَلْيَنْظُرِ الْإِنسَانُ إِلَىٰ طَعَامِهِ. What does that look like? Let man look at his food properly, yes? Apparently, what does it look like? That I shouldn't eat haram food. Correct or no? Correct or no? Is that not the tafsir? فَلْيَنْظُرِ الْإِنسَانُ إِلَىٰ طَعَامِهِ. Let mankind look at his food. The tafsir would be, stay away from haram. Don't eat haram. Haram food is not acceptable. Try and purify your soul away from haram. You know, sometimes in our communities today, you have many people until today in the school of Ahlul Bayt who eat kosher. You look at them, you're like, excuse me, why are you eating kosher? I said, food of Ahlul Kitab. What do you mean food of Ahlul Kitab? I said, yes, but Ahlul Kitab, they eat, you know, they believe in Allah, we believe in Allah. So if I see a Christian shop or a Jewish shop, at the end of the day, they're people of the book, I can eat. Who told you you can eat? I said, oh, my brother's from another school in Islam. No, you're a follower of Ahlul Bayt, not another school in Islam. Do you know how many people outside the school of Ahlul Bayt eat kosher every day? Every day. Do you think that doesn't have an effect on the soul? Do you know how many people of the followers of Ahlul Bayt go to Europe, for example, McDonald's, Burger King, because this guy is used to them in his Khaliji countries, yes? In Dubai or in Kuwait or in Saudi, he's used to them being halal. So when he gets there to London, for example, you see him eating the Big Mac, yes? So, Habibi, what are you doing eating the Big Mac? And sometimes I say it out of jealousy. You say to him, Habibi, what are you doing eating the Big Mac? Correct or no? You see that the person replies by saying, no, you don't understand. I'm like, okay, explain to me, what don't I understand? He's like, in our countries, it's halal. And I just look around London. What of London makes you think it's halal? Yes? What of London makes you think it's halal? I say, okay, not London. The person looks at me and says, okay, not London, I understand, it's not. But the Quran says the ta'am of Ahlul Kitab has been made halal. And therefore you find so many of the other schools in Islam come and eat Big Mac, Whopper, all of these, it's normal. Let alone there's a third category of people, they're the funniest. Just before he begins, there's a Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I tell you, I wish it was that easy. All of us wouldn't be in the mosque now. We'd be having Whoppers 24/7, true? There wouldn't be a single person in the mosque. Every single person would be like, Bismillah, 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 Bismillah. Or as some of our mothers do, I'm sure many of you have seen when your mother, you tell her there's some trouble in your life or you have problems, and she'll suddenly blow on top of you, yes? See, many times you'll see our mothers will be like, Summun bukmun umyun, and you're like, Mom, hold on a minute, why are you blowing so much on me? Why are you breathing like that? Oh no, I'm letting the verse flow. If you're letting the verse flow, then I should do that with the Big Mac as well. Because if the ayah of the Quran can do that, then I'm going to do that with the Big Mac. Bring me a Big Mac and I'm going to be like, the whole over the Big Mac. The appearance of that ayah of the Quran, فَلْيَنْظُرِ الْإِنسَانُ إِلَىٰ طَعَامِهِ. Let man have a look at his ta'am. Let man have a look. In the school of Ahl-Bayt, when the ayah said ta'am of Ahl al-Kitab, Imam Sadiq said it means the herbs and the vegetables of Ahl al-Kitab, not their meat. Baba, the meat of Ahl al-Kitab doesn't face the Kaaba. Do you know we believe in the spirituality of the food as much as the physical aspect, correct? Yes, Ahlul Bayt are very lenient. If you don't know if something is, for example, who the cook is and so on, they've given us much leniency. But there's a standard principle. What's the standard principle? That mankind, have a look at what you're eating. Think about what you're eating. That's the apparent. The ta'weel of this, Imam Sadiq says is what? Have a look where you're getting your knowledge from. Hold on, say Imam Sadiq. It says, فَلْيَنْظُرُ الْإِنسَانُ إِلَىٰ طَعَامِهِ. He said, yes, but there's food for the physical and there's food for thought. Correct or no? When someone says something nice to you, don't you say, you know what, that's given me food for thought? That's made me think. You say, what do you mean food for thought? You've just what, eaten his words? No. Metaphorically, you have to think about where the knowledge comes from. Correct or no? Imam Sadiq was asked, what's the tafsir of this ayah? He said, you watch what you eat. What's the ta'weel of this ayah? And that ta'weel can only be given to those who Allah has given it to. It's not just anyone who can come and give you ta'weel of an ayah. Imam Sadiq looked at the person, he said, have a look at the knowledge where you're getting it from. Correct or no? As in today, every Tom, Dick and Harry is sitting on the minbar of Ahlul Bayt. Correct or no? Everybody is being allowed to sit on the minbar. As in I've heard certain people, and we give them benefit of the doubt, that they've come here to sit on the minbar of Ahlul Bayt to spread the knowledge. You look at him, you're like, Maulana, where did you get this story from? Huh, Maulana, where did you get this from? He's like, don't say anything. Say, Maulana, this story is not in our books. I promise there was once a Maulana who said, he said, I'm going to give you a story, but you won't find it in the books. So where am I going to find it? Where will I find it? How many times have you sat in a majlis where you're listening to the speaker and you're thinking to yourself, where did he get that story from? Then when you speak to Maulana after, you're like, Maulana from where? And the Maulana himself, he himself says, let it go. Don't worry. The masses enjoy these stories. This member of Ahlul Bayt wasn't meant to be for someone to come and sit here and just give you stories which they haven't researched. Imam Sadiq, therefore, when he done ta'weel of this ayah, what was it? فَلْيَنْظُرِ الْإِنسَانُ إِلَىٰ طَعَامِهِ. Let man have a look at the food they eat. Let me give you another ayah. You've read the ayah in the Quran in Surah 5 verse 32. If you kill one human being, it's as if you've killed the whole of humanity. Yes? And if you save the life of one human being, it's as if you've saved the life of the whole of humanity. Correct or no? That on the appearance seems clear. The tafsir of it is clear. The tafsir is what? The tafsir of the ayah is that you should not mercilessly kill a human being. You should not come for no reason and kill another human being. This person has got sanctity in their life. Many of you would have heard my press conference when I replied to the killing of that soldier in London, in the Woolwich killing, where I clearly said that if you save the life of one human, it's as if you've saved the life of the whole of humanity. But you kill one human being, it's as if you've killed the whole of humanity. So Imam Sadiq gave the apparent. Then they asked him, what's the ta'weel of this ayah? He said, if you guide one human being in your area, it's as if you've guided the whole of humanity. Yes? How many times in your life do you want to save a life? Don't save the physical life. Save the spiritual life of a human being. Don't come and tell me that I want to save someone's life. They're drowning in the sea. Wallah, drowning in the sea of sin is worse than drowning in any other sea. Yes? You could have someone drowning in the sea. You want to go and save him. Forget saving him. Save the one drowning in the sin of disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam al-Sadiq, what does he say? He said that ayah, the tafsir is to save a human's life. The ta'wil is that if you guide one human being, it's as if you've guided the whole of humanity. And you know why ta'wil? Can anyone do ta'wil? Because today you find everybody is doing ta'wil of an ayah. Let me give you another ayah. Have you heard of the ayah in the Quran, al-lu'lu' wal-marjan? Yes? In Surah Rahman. Yes? When Surah Rahman talks of the lu'lu' and the marjan, many people straight away say what? That refers to what? It refers to the pearls, for example, of the sea and so on. And Imam al-Sadiq would give the explanation. They'd say to what's the ta'wil? He'd say the coming together of Ali ibn Abi Talib and Fatima al-Zahra. Salawatullah wa salamu alayhima. Maraj al-Bahrain yaltaqiyan, the two seas come together and the pearls that come with them, the children of Fatima and Ali. Someone turns around and says, why would Imam al-Sadiq say this? It's clear because Imam al-Sadiq will explain on the apparent meaning. Those who can explain and understand the apparent, that's enough for them. But if you want the deeper essence of an ayah of the Quran, there are only a few who Allah says in the Quran, هو الذي أنزل عليك الكتاب منه آيات محكمات هن أم الكتاب وأخر متشابهات فأما الذين في قلوبهم زيغ فيتبعون ما تشابه منه ابتغاء الفتنة وابتغاء تأويله وما يعلم تأويله إلا الله والراسخون في العلم وما يعلم تأويله not وما يعلم تفسيره. The none know its deep meaning. Except whom? Except Allah and those Allah infused His ilm with. Yes? راسخون في العلم هو they. Muhammad and Al Muhammad صلوات الله وسلامه عليهما. اللهم صل محمد وعلى محمد. Let's have a second salawat to give the energy to the majlis. اللهم صل محمد وعلى محمد. Third loud salawat in honor of Imam Sahib al-Asr wa zaman. Allahumma salli Muhammad wa Muhammad. Therefore, when someone comes and asks about tafsir, many ulama can do tafsir. But if you're looking for ta'wil, the deeper meaning of the Quran, Allah specifically said, وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ. That wow is not wow al-fasl, it's wow al-wasl. That wow is a connection between Allah and the rasikhun fil ilm. Yes? Even if it wasn't a connection, doesn't deny that Allah couldn't give His ilm to certain people. Allah, if He wants to, عالم الغيب فلا يظهر على غيبه أحدا إلا من ارتضى من رسول. If Allah wants to, He can give His ilm of the ta'wil of the ayat. And that's why Ahl al-Bayt say very clearly, not anyone can do ta'wil. Don't one of you come today, with all respect meant to everyone in the hall, and even I speak to myself. I can't look at an ayah and say, you know what, I think the sixth layer of the meaning of this ayah is me. No. You calm down. There are some people you will find, he'll start saying, I can do the ta'wil. No. Ta'wil is with Ahl al-Bayt. I remember Ibn Arabi in his tafsir of the ayah of wudu. Yes? يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا قمتم إلى الصلاة فاغسلوا وجوهكم وأيديكم إلى المرافق وامسحوا برؤوسكم وأرجلكم إلى الكعبين. Ibn Arabi, what does he say? He says that purify, it says, the ayah says, purify yourself with what? Water. You wash your face and so on. He says, no, purify. He says the ta'wil of the ayah is what? The ta'wil of the ayah is that purify your heart with the water of knowledge. Yes? So he gives you that ta'wil. You look and you say, okay, Ibn Arabi, you can give me that ta'wil. But who are you for me to take the ta'wil from? Yes? There's tafsir bil-ma'thur and tafsir bil-ra'i. Tafsir bil-ra'i is a person saying, in my opinion, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu idha qumtum ila as-salati faghsilu wujuhakum wa aydiyakum is what? In my opinion, it's that you're washing away the impurities of the heart with your ilm. Yes, anyone can come and tell me this, but it doesn't mean I take that ta'wil. Why? Because ta'wil will come specifically from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He'll give it to certain of His chosen servants. In the school of Ahl al-Bayt, we say there is tafsir bil-ra'i, where people give their ra'i to an ayah. That's a dangerous tafsir. Why? Because then I'll have everybody doing tafsir. People who studied with Rasulullah, people who didn't study with Rasulullah, all of them will start giving me tafsir bil-ra'i. We say the true tafsir is tafsir bil-ma'thur. Ma'thur means what? Tafsir using the traditions of Al Muhammad. You look at what Ahl al-Bayt have said on an ayah, then you come and you give your tafsir. That's not to deny there were schools in the religion of Islam or there were scholars who gave great tafsir. That's not to deny. As in you look at Fakhr al-Razi, that 32-volume work is a phenomenal work of tafsir. Even if he's from another school. Fakhr al-Razi is a Shafi'i Ash'ari. He's from another school in Islam. But I tell you, that tafsir of Fakhr al-Razi is one of the best tafsir when it comes to interpretation of the Quran. You look at a tafsir like Durr al-Manthur, yes? في التفسير المأثور of Jalaluddin al-Suyuti. Fantastic tafsir. You look at other tafsir of the school of Ahl al-Sunnah, yes? Jam' al-Bayan and Ta'wil al-Quran of who? Of Tabari. A fantastic tafsir. You have tafsir where people came from other schools in Islam. They gave us brilliant tafsir. But do we take every tafsir? No. If we want to take from Fakhr al-Razi, or if we want to take from Tabari, or if we want to take from Suyuti, we can take from them. There are great pearls of knowledge, but if they accord with the traditions of Muhammad and Al-Muhammad, because Ahl al-Bayt were placed alongside the Quran, therefore the prerequisites isn't I can just take tafsir from any of these. Even though I tell you, some of these, they have given credit to Al-Muhammad, wherever Al-Muhammad have been mentioned. Ayat al-Wilaya, Ayat al-Tathir, Ayat al-Mawadda, many of these tafsir themselves have explained them. However, we say tafsir bil-ma'thur is when a scholar goes to the traditions of Al-Muhammad and they give their tafsir. Therefore, what are the prerequisites for someone doing tafsir? If tomorrow, now, everybody in this hall decided that they wanted to do tafsir of the Quran, is it easy for anyone to do tafsir? Please focus on this, my dear brothers and sisters. You know why? Because someone once came to me and said, you know what? There's no ayah in the Quran about wearing hijab. Where did you lot get this from? I'm like, sorry, what do you mean? There's no ayah. Show me an ayah. Because when you see the followers of Al-Muhammad without hijab, it can mean one of a number of things, yes? Either they don't respect what Zainab done at Karbala, as in what she did was good, and it's sad, but further than that, what, you really expect me to cover my hair for the sake of a lady who died 1,000 years ago? You must be joking. I'll cry for her and I'll do a social gathering, but otherwise no way. Even you'll see fathers, they'll look at their daughter, they'll say, no hijab, not now, later. Ruqayya, Sukaina, those are stories or these are myths, I don't understand. One opinion is they'll say, I don't really have much respect for the lady, but I don't think there's many who are like that. I think there are many who love her. So what's the other opinion? The other is, I'm not ready. There are some who'll turn around and say, I'm not going to wear hijab because I'm not ready. Who told you you have to be ready in your time? Allah is waiting for you and you're telling him I'm not ready? And you'll find fathers who will say, listen, she's not ready and I don't want her to take it off and put it back on and take it. Who are you not to want her? Who gave you an opinion? Allah has said something's wajib. How dare you come and say, I'm not sure if she's ready? When she had to brush her teeth, she wouldn't sleep until you made sure she brushed her teeth, yes? But to cover her modesty, you let her go? The third opinion is what? The third opinion is no. The third opinion is it's not in the Quran, they say. Excuse me, what made you know tafsir of the Quran? When you give me a prescription as a pharmacist, do I debate you? No, I don't. I haven't studied pharmacy. Why would I debate you? When I come to your law firm, I'm like, I need advice. Yes, I need some advice on a case. Do I debate you? I've got a heart condition. I go to the doctor. When the doctor tells me to do this, do I debate? Why is it when it comes to Islam, everyone becomes an alim? So the one who studied 31 years in a hawza, yes, gave all his life away studying, like Ayatollah al-Khoi, let's say. When he tells you hijab is wajib, and it's in the Quran, and then you turn around with all audacity and look at him and say, no, not in my opinion. What have you done of the prerequisites of tafsir for you to give Ayatollah al-Khoi an opinion? The prerequisites for pharmacy is I have to do 4 or 5 years school, yes? Medicine I might have to do 7, 8 years. Let's say law I have to do 4. When you come and give me an answer, I can't debate you because it's not my area. But how is it whenever it comes to the Quran, everybody becomes a mufassir? When you come to the prerequisites of the tafsir, do you know what the prerequisites are or no? You know when someone like Allama Tabatabai does tafsir, you know what his prerequisites are? Firstly, philology. Someone will say, well, I can't even spell that. I just say, you want me to do tafsir? Fiqh al-lugha, correct? Fiqh al-lugha means what? The laws of language. What's the origin of every meaning of the word in the Arabic language from the 7th century? Then after that what? After that you have to do nahu. Correct or no? You have to do syntax, the study of Arabic grammar. After that what do you have to do? Sarf. Yes? Tasrif means what? Morphology. Yes? So what have we said now? Philology, syntax and morphology, and people are debating me about tafsir of the Quran. There are people who don't know how to speak Arabic. There are others who know but have never studied grammar, and they're now trying to tell me where the ayah is on hijab in the Quran. It's unbelievable. Everybody became an alim on the Quran. Then after what? I have fiqh al-lugha, I have nahu, I have sarf. Then after that I have rhetoric, bayan, correct or no? Then after that I have istihqaq, etymology, the meaning of every word in the Arabic language. Then after that I need to know the abrogating and the abrogated verses. Then after that I need to know the ambiguous and the decisive verses. Then after that I need to know what? Usul al-fiqh, the principles of fiqh. Then after that I need to know fiqh itself. Then I need to know all the science of hadith from the beginning until today. Then after that I need to have memorized pre-Islamic Arabian poetry to know the way the Arabs spoke. So when I look at an ayah of the Quran, I know what that word means according to the poets. And I have to study pre-Arabian Islamic culture to know the culture of the woman in Arabia at the time. When I've done all of this, then I can look at the Quran and say there is no hijab in Quran. It's not to say a person can't have an opinion in Islam. Everyone can speak. But don't speak when something's not your subject. If you're a doctor, I put my hand up on top of you and I say that I cannot speak in your field. You know better than me. But why is it that when the ulama of Ahlul Bayt have an opinion, everybody thinks they can speak? In the Quran, when someone came and said that with these prerequisites, someone said there's no verse on hijab. That person hadn't studied pre-Islamic Arabian culture. Arabian women used to already cover their hair. The only thing they didn't do is they used to cover like a bandana, so the ears show and the neck shows. I don't need to give an ayah saying cover your hair to a group of women whose culture it is to cover their hair. I need to say to them is let your khimar come over your bosom. Yes? The khimar means that they were wearing a khimar, a veil. But don't let your ears and your neck show, because that's not hijab. So when someone comes and tells me there's no ayah in the Quran saying cover your hair, you're absolutely right. But had you spent 3 years with us when we were studying on Monday mornings until Saturdays and Sundays in these verses, we would have studied pre-Islamic Arabian culture. You would have said to me, but the Arab women already used to cover their hair. So all that the Quran needed to do was place a veil over the bosom area because that area was showing. You see the difference? Tafsir isn't a job which anyone can just pick up the Quran and say, in my opinion, there's no ayah. And that's been the problem in our communities from where? Problem on the ground and over here. Over here, not explaining properly. On the ground, not caring to have humility in a subject that's not theirs. You think Fatima Zahra doesn't know if there's hijab in the Quran or no? When she covers herself, what? She does it because of culture? Fatima lives by culture? Fatima Zahra wears hijab means in the Quran there's hijab. Zainab fights for hijab means in the Quran there's hijab. Hamida, wife of Imam Sadiq, wears hijab, that means in the Quran there's hijab. Ahlul Bayt are walking tafsir of the Quran. If you doubted if there was a verse on the Quran on this issue, ask yourself, did the ladies who the house where the Quran was welcome, did they wear or no? If they wore, that means it's in the Quran. If they took it off, that means it's not in the Quran. Therefore, you found that the ulama of Ahlul Bayt made it clear that fiqh al-lugha, nahu, sarf, istihqaq, bayan, ilm al-usul, usul al-fiqh, ilm al-hadith, ilm al-rijal, ilm al-diraya, all of these have to be studied. Then you have the great tafsir of Ahl al-Bayt, no doubt. And what's the greatest of our tafsir? You look at a tafsir like Tibyan of Shaykh al-Tusi, a phenomenal tafsir. If ever you want to go and read a tafsir of the school of Ahl al-Bayt, Shaykh al-Tusi left us a phenomenal tafsir. And it's a shame when you ask the followers of Ahl al-Bayt, have you read the Tibyan of Tusi? Many will turn around and say, you know, I don't have time and I'm busy and you don't understand. And then he looks at himself in the mirror and he realizes, you know what, actually I've got so much spare time, I'm just lazy, correct? It's a shame. The Tibyan of Shaykh al-Tusi. Any ayah of the Quran, you open the Tibyan, you find the answers to that ayah. You find the arguments back and forth. A second great work, Majma' al-Bayan of Tabrasi. A phenomenal work of tafsir. One of the greatest works which Ahlul Sunnah, the likes of Bayhaqi, would say he is a master of Nahu. Just the Arabic grammar alone is an equal to Zamakhshari's Kashaf. You find, for example, Majma' al-Bayan of Tabrasi, Al-Tibyan of Shaykh al-Tusi, without a doubt, Al-Mizan of Allama al-Tabatabai. What a phenomenal work. Allama al-Tabatabai has a unique method, tafsir of the Quran by the Quran. He gives you a whole tafsir of the Quran. How? By the Quran. He takes an ayah, looks at the word, and looks at every other ayah where the word is used, and then he gives you the tafsir of that ayah. It's a phenomenal piece. And you know how he compiled Al-Mizan? 14 hours a day. Allama Tabatabai used to study the Quran and write Al-Mizan. How many? 14. 14 hours a day. He used to do what? He used to come and he used to prepare that Al-Mizan, without a doubt. And when he'd prepare that Al-Mizan, 364 days a year, they asked him, why do you say 364 days a year? It's interesting, isn't it? Said to him, why do you write 364? You said 364, you never said 365. He said, one day I give to Abu Abdullah. Said, Ashura, there is no writing. My whole day is to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Yani when you see a person being given the qualities of Allama Tabatabai, to give that legacy of Al-Mizan. But he says the 10th of Muharram, there's no writing. Everything's down. The 10th of Muharram is my heart to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. No doubt. That Allama Tabatabai, he said what all of us said, correct or no? That there's one day in the year where all of us give our hearts to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. There's that one day in the year when all of us give our dedication. Religious and not religious, rich or poor. Don't you all see them on the 10th of Muharram? You look around the followers of Ahl al-Bayt on the 10th of Muharram, you see that every single follower of Ahl al-Bayt comes together in honor of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Therefore you found Allama Tabatabai al-Mizan, try and get hold of it, sit in a circle. Another great tafsir, Al-Amthal of Ayatollah Nasir Makarim Shirazi. I recommend all of you if you can get the tafsir. The Amthal means the exemplar tafsir, yes? It's the exemplar. He combined with another 10 scholars to write this tafsir. It's an easy tafsir to read. And all you have to do really is you speak to the Imam of your mosque. Sit with the Imam of your mosque. Say to him, Maulana, let's have tafsir classes of the Quran. We start from the smallest surahs of the Quran and we get to the biggest ones. Every week we finish a surah, we look at why the surah was revealed, when it was revealed, what happened when it was revealed, what's the debates involved. The tafsir of the Quran is a science which brings you attached to Muhammad and al-Muhammad, no doubt. And that's why on the Day of Judgment we have a beautiful hadith. A hadith which says that 3 will complain. Imam al-Sadiq says 3 will complain on the Day of Judgment. Which 3? The first of them is the Quran, for nobody bothered to recite it. It will complain on the Day of Judgment. Ask yourself in this holy month of Ramadan, how much of you recited the Quran? How much of you sat with the Quran? شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. That this is the month for you and the Quran. He says that the first to complain on the Day of Judgment will be the Quran, no doubt. That the Quran will say that the followers of Ahl al-Bayt neglected me. They didn't bother looking for my tafsir, my ta'wil, my meaning. It's vital that in our communities we don't neglect the Quran. The second that will complain will be the mosque which people do not attend. Correct or no? MashaAllah, you find this beautiful mosque over here, but this mosque can only live with our presence, with our attendance. Do not be of those Muslims who only turns up Shahr Ramadan and Muharram. There is a group of Muslims, as one of my respected fellow speakers would always say, 40-day Muslims, yes? 30 in Shahr Ramadan and 10 in Muharram. Shahadat Imam al-Kadhim, he's not there. Imam al-Jawad, he doesn't know even who he is. Imam al-Askari, he hasn't got a clue about his life. The mosque will complain on the Day of Judgment about those who abandoned it, those who neglected it, those who didn't make sure it stayed alive through their presence. Your presence isn't your wealth. Your presence is your heart in a mosque, isn't it? Your presence is maintaining the mosque as a house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the third who will complain on the Day of Judgment are the family of Rasulullah for the way they were executed and killed in their lives. That there is no doubt about. You look at the family of Rasulullah. You know, Abu al-Faraj al-Asfahani wrote a famous book, Maqatil al-Talibiyin. Maqatil al-Talibiyin retraced how the family of Rasulullah were butchered one after the other. If you look at each and every member of Al Muhammad, there is not but one that they were butchered in their lifetime, yes? I want your heart to soften on a night like this. Don't look at me. Take your heart to Karbala. Stay in Karbala next to that man in Karbala. Because I tell you, each member of Al Muhammad will complain. The first of them to complain is the lady crushed behind the wall and the door, yes? She'll complain on the Day of Judgment, Ya Allah, I was the daughter of your Prophet, yet they smashed the door on me. I was pregnant and I miscarried, yes? They smashed the door on her in a way where the nail went straight through the rib when she was pregnant at the time, yes? She'll be the first to come and her hands will be on her broken rib, yes? And that's why even you find, not just they broke the rib, I wish it was only the rib, and even that is something that hurts. They even slapped her viciously across her eyes, yes? Because when they were with Amir al-Mu'mineen, she had come out to complain against them. On her way back home, the narrations mention 2 men slapped her across the eye. And that's why even Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen sees Imam al-Hassan. May Allah bless the lovers of Fatima al-Zahra in this hall. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen even tells Imam al-Hassan one day after Fatima al-Zahra had been killed, he says to him, my son Hassan, I see you cry. What's wrong? He said, Father, if you saw what I saw, you would cry as well. He said to him, my son, remember Imam al-Hassan, how old was he at the time? Imam al-Hassan was only about 8 years old at the time. He said to him, my father, if you saw what I saw, you'd cry. So he said, what is it, my son? He said, as we were coming back home, my mother was holding me and Hussein. 2 men came and slapped her across her eye. And that's why Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen says, no wonder your mother wouldn't look me in the eyes in her final days. No wonder. Now I know the reason why. Whether it's that lady and she'll complain, or the man struck in the mosque of Kufa, yes? Never forget that in a few days you'll be celebrating Eid. But Kulthum and Zainab, it would have been the 10th of their father's strike. On that Eid, that wasn't an Eid for Zainab and Kulthum, yes? Or how about that man who vomited out his liver from the poison of Ju'da? He'll complain about how he was treated, yes? Or how about that man who stayed in the prisons of Harun al-Rashid for 20 years, Imam Musa al-Kadhim, Bab al-Hawa'ij? He'll complain, but none shall complain like the man whose body lay on the ground in Karbala. None shall complain. Do you know why? Because they didn't just kill him, no. They made sure every arrow surrounded his body. That the Maqatil literature say Imam al-Hussein looked like a qunfud. He looked like a hedgehog. That's how many arrows were around his body. Imagine Imam al-Hussein, what was his mattress? It was the arrows of Bani Umayyah, yes? Surrounding his body. You would think that that was the only thing they done. No. They beheaded him. They allowed the arrows to surround his body. They kicked his head with the spikes on their feet, yes? They would kick him. One of them narrates that we kicked him so hard we saw the blood pouring on his beard, yes? But even further than that, arguably the saddest thing happened on the afternoon of the 10th, on the night of the 11th of Muharram. You know, this narration hurts me, my dear brothers. Wallah, it's difficult for me to narrate to you. Do you know what the narration says? That Imam had died, Abu Fadl had died, Ali al-Akbar had died, Qasim had died, Zuhair had died, Hur had died. All of them were on the ground. But Umar bin Sa'ad wanted to see more. So do you know what he did? He turned around to the riders of his horses, yes? There were these men were riding the horses. He turned around to them. He said, "Oh riders of the horses, sharpen the hooves of your horses." Why sharpen the hooves? Why? He said, "Every hoof I want it sharpened." They said to him, "Why?" He said, "I want you to trample on the bodies of the companions of Imam al-Hussein." Yes? So they sharpened their hooves one after the other. They were about to go. They asked him, "Who shall we trample on?" He said, "Trample on the body of Hur bin Yazid al-Riyahi." But Hur's tribe, Banu Riyah, were in the army of Umar bin Sa'ad. They turned around to Umar bin Sa'ad. They said, "Listen, Umar bin Sa'ad, you've already killed our son. We don't allow you to humiliate him by trampling on his body." So he said, "Okay, very well, I won't trample on his body." So then they said to him, "Who do you want us to trample on?" He said, "Habib ibn Madahir." But Habib ibn Madahir, Banu Asad were present. They said, "We don't allow you to trample on the body." So then he said, "Trample on the body of Muslim bin Awsaja." But Muslim bin Awsaja's tribe were present. They said, "We don't allow you." So he went through each companion, but each companion had a relative in the army. So each companion's relative said, "Don't humiliate our son, you've already killed him." So then he turned around, he said, "Very well, trample on the bodies of Bani Hashim." So they looked at him, they said to him, "Whom?" He said, "Trample on the body of Abu Fadl al-Abbas." Yes, I asked him, "What remained of the body of Abu Fadl for you to trample on it?" But at this moment, who came forward? Shimr came out. He said, "Listen, that's my cousin. His mother is my cousin. Leave him. Don't trample on his body." So then he said, "Trample on the body of Qasim ibn al-Hasan." But Banu Fazara, the tribe of Qasim's mother, were present. And they said, "We don't allow you." Yes, you know where I'm heading. Then he said, "Trample on the body of Ali al-Akbar." But at this moment the orders came. Ali al-Akbar's mother Layla is Yazid's cousin. "We don't allow you to trample on his body." He then turned around. What did he say? He said, "Is there anybody who lies on the ground with no tribe to protect them?" Yes, he asked this question. Is there anybody that lies on the ground? And they turned around to him and they said, "There's only one body that lies on the ground." MashaAllah. There's only one. There's only one body that lies on the ground, whose mother and father's tribe are not here to protect him. He turned around and he said, "Who lies on the ground whose mother and father's tribe are not here to protect him?" They said to him, "Only one man lies on the ground, Hussein, son of Ali, son of Abu Talib." He turned around to them and he said, "Oh horse riders, ride your horses and trample on the body of Abu Abdullah." Sayyidah Zainab was in the tent, yes? She looked at Imam Zain al-Abidin. There was a remains of the tent. Everything else had been burnt. She looked at the Imam. She said to him, "Oh Imam, I hear something breaking." He said to her, "My auntie, it's the bones of my father, Abu Abdullah. I say to Fatima al-Zahra, only one of your ribs was broken, whereas they took all the ribs of Hussein on the 10th of Muharram." May Allah bless all your tears. May they speak for you on the day of judgment. May Allah bless every one of these tears and allow them to be shafa'ah on the day of judgment. Raise your hands, my dear brothers and sisters. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to raise us with Muhammad and Al Muhammad. Imam al-Sadiq has a beautiful line which all of you should remember in your hearts. Allahumma arham tilka al-khudud التي تقلبت على ضريح أبي عبد الله Oh Allah, have mercy on the cheeks that rub themselves on the darih of Imam al-Hussein. Ya Allah, let these cheeks rub themselves on the grave of Hussein. Ya Allah, allow us the ziyarah of Hussein. Ya Allah, allow us to crawl to Imam al-Hussein. Ya Allah, allow us to be either in Ashura or Arba'een next to Imam al-Hussein. Ya Allah, raise us with Imam al-Hussein. Ya Allah, we ask you in the name of the thirst of Imam al-Hussein. We ask you in the name of the strangerhood of Imam al-Hussein. Ya Allah, we ask you in the name of the illness of Zayn al-Abidin. Bring unity to the Ummah of Muhammad and Al Muhammad.